Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and welcome to another synthesis and sound design tutorial in Logic Pro. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create what I call a frenetic arpeggiator effect, essentially a fast-moving, high-energy, constant motion arpeggiator effect that also modulates and randomizes some instrument parameters in real time. All of this is taken care of by MIDI FX in Logic. So this is another example of starting with something simple and then letting the MIDI effects make it more complex. So first, let me show you a quick example of what I'm talking about. So for this video, I'm going to use the arpeggiator, note repeater, and modulator MIDI effects, along with the ES2 instrument in Logic, but you could do this with any instrument in Logic you like, including most third-party instruments. So to start, I have some chords here in the step sequencer. They just sound like this. And I think I should choose a patch in the ES2 that's more of like a keyboard patch or a plucked patch, something that has a hard transient and not really a long sustain. So let me go to synth keyboards and let's go through some of these presets. Okay, that one's nice. Now what I'll do is I'll add the arpeggiator, and if you don't know how to add the arpeggiator as a MIDI effects plugin, you just click here on an empty MIDI effects slot and then choose the arpeggiator. So I'm going to pull this up, and I've already created a preset in here where it's an eighth note rate. The note order is up. I'm using the third variation and a 2-octave range, and I'm also shortening the note length a bit. So I can tell that this instrument has a long release time, so I'm going to pull down that release because that's not going to work out so great when I add in all the other effects. Okay, perfect. The other thing worth mentioning here is this type of effect works best with polyphonic instruments, so I recommend raising the number of voices to its max value, and you want to stay away from monophonic and legato settings. Okay, next up is the note repeater. And if you didn't know this already, you can actually add multiple MIDI effects in a signal chain. So I'll just click below the arpeggiator, and then I'll choose the note repeater. The note repeater is essentially like a MIDI echo or a MIDI delay. I'm going to set the number of repeats to 1, and I want each echo to be an octave higher than the original note. So I'll set the transpose parameter to 12 semitones. And I also want each echo to be at a lower velocity than the original note. So I'll pull down the velocity ramp. Lastly, I need to set the rate or the delay time of the note repeater. For this type of effect, you want your note repeater delay to be half the length of your arpeggiator rate. So the arpeggiator rate was an eighth note, so I'm going to have the note repeater delay at a 16th note, because the 16th note is 1/2 of an eighth note. And you may have to use a slower rate than you're typically used to in the arpeggiator. Instead of using a 16th note, try using an eighth note or even a quarter note. So let's see what this sounds like with the note repeater in. I'm going to go ahead and soften up the front end attack just a little bit. I still want a little bit of a click in there, but not too much. Okay, so up next is the Modulator MIDI effects plugin. So I'll add this right after the note repeater. And what I love about the modulator is it allows you to apply an LFO or envelope modulation to any parameter in any synthesizer or software instrument or any audio effects plugin. Now, you could just use the LFOs and envelopes within the instrument, but I find it really helpful to be able to assign these things here and just have separate control over the instrument that you're working with. This will also allow us to swap out the preset for another sound later and experiment with how this effect sounds with different presets. So what I really want to do is randomize some settings. So what I'm going to do is choose the random waveform in the LFO. I'll set the rate to an eighth note for this. And I want to go ahead and smooth the motion a bit. Now, to select a parameter, you have to go here where it says 2, and then click on Learn Plugin Parameter, and then you click on the parameter that you want to randomize. So for this first parameter, I'm going to randomize the cutoff here, and you'll see now that cutoff frequency of filter 2 is moving around at random, but it's kind of making these really wide movements. If you want to control that, you can pull down the output level, and then you can adjust the offset to adjust the position of that control. And now you can see it's randomized, but it's only randomized within a certain range of parameters. So this is going to help to create some random modulation and give the instrument some more dynamics. Let me go ahead and use the envelope as well. I'll assign this to the first cutoff frequency here, and I'll pull in the attack time a bit, and let's see what this sounds like. So now I have an envelope on every single note, moving that cutoff frequency and opening it up a bit. If you want, you can add another modulator. So I'll just add a second modulator. And in this one, I'll turn on the LFO. I'll turn on the random setting. And this time I'm going to learn the drive knob. You can see that moving around at random. I'll try this out on an eighth note as well. I'll smooth out that motion. And then I can play around with the output level and offset and find a setting I like. And if I want even more distortion and warped effects, I can do the same thing with the FM knob. So let's add a third modulator. And yeah, you can just keep stacking these up until you have enough modulation effects. So let me go ahead and learn the FM knob. And now you can see that's moving. And you don't have to use random. You can use, triangle wave or sine wave or square wave. Whatever works for you. I'm just using random parameters because I like the random effect. I feel like it gives it some more dynamics. It gives it some more variety. For this, I'm going to go with a lower, slower rate, like a quarter note. Let's smooth that out a bit. And then, again, play around with the output level and offset and find a setting that I like. Let's go ahead and learn just one more control, and I'll set this envelope to the filter resonance here. We'll just kind of make that sweep up a bit on each note. And then at this point, you can adjust any of the parameters you like within the instrument to customize the sound further. Maybe I'll add a little distortion. Maybe I'll turn on unison detuning, pull up the analog knob a bit just for a bit of a natural chorus effect. And play around with different oscillator settings as well. Maybe instead of all square waves, I want to change one of these out to an FM sine wave. Let's tune these down an octave too. They sound a bit high. Now, the last thing I typically will do is add some audio effects to further enhance the sound. For this, I'm going to use the black hole reverb from Eventide. I'm probably going to want quite a bit of reverb on this just to create some ambience. Now, if you don't like the tone of the effect, maybe it's too bright or maybe it's too dark, you can always add an EQ before your reverb to further shape the tone. So for example, if I want to filter out some of the high end, I can add in the low pass filter. And if I want to filter out some of the low end, I can add in the high pass filter. So that's how you can create a frenetic arpeggiator effect in Logic Pro. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.